What is up, guys? Rick Smackus here. Thank you so much for stopping by, and today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Devil's Ruin exotic sidearm just introduced into Destiny 2. But instead of playing a couple Crucible games, we're getting a whole fire team, all 6 people, utilizing this weapon and going through the largest raid in Destiny's history, Last Wish, and ranking this weapon on every encounter. How does this new exotic actually perform in an endgame activity? That's what we're gonna find out. And so, let's get started. But just before we do, guys, big news. Advanced GG is having a special 72-hour sale. If you use my code KackisHD, you get 20% off. If you ever wanted to try Advanced GG, especially Focus, I use it all the time. It's fantastic. Click the link in the description down below, and again, use that code for 20% off. So, let's get started by taking a closer look at the Devil's Ruin. It has 2 unique perks. Firstly, intrinsically, it has Close the Gap. Variable trigger, press and release to fire individual shots, hold to charge up a high-powered, staggering laser, strong against unstoppable champions. Now, the other unique perk is going to be Pyrogenesis. Fully charging the laser refills the magazine from reserves. Essentially, it lets you shoot this weapon normally, and as long as you have just 1 round left in the magazine, you can then hold it and it will go all the way back to 15 to do that powerful charged laser. Now, I am aware there's a glitch where if you let go at the perfect time, it'll automatically reload the magazine, but it's really hard to duplicate in anything more than 30 frames per second, so we're just using this gun normally for this video, especially since it might get patched later. Now, let's start here with the first encounter against Kalli, and right off the bat, we got a boss fight. So, how is this weapon there? Well, you're gonna have to kill a bunch of thralls, and it's actually great for that. Like, this weapon can kill the thralls in 1 headshot, which is quite nice. It's generally a more powerful sidearm in terms of damage. However, I will admit it is kind of weird to use and shoot this weapon normally in the non-charged mode, because there's a little bit of a delay when you press the trigger and when the gun shoots, so that can be a little bit strange. In any event, how does this actually fare against damaging Kalli? Well, as you can see, it's okay. I mean, it's actually putting forth a reasonable amount of damage. And we actually DPS Kalli a few different times. We were trying to go for the 1 phase because it is definitely possible. We, would mess up a thing or two, and we thought, oh, if we were just a little bit more perfect, I bet we can 1 phase Kalli. But at the end of the day, the fact that this primary weapon, remember, it is a primary weapon. Sometimes when I'm equipping my character, I forget that and I have, a scout rifle or a hand cannon and then this weapon. I'm like, wait, no, this is a primary. I should be using this and then a shotgun and then a grenade launcher or whatever. So it does put out a pretty decent amount of damage for just being a primary. The fact that we are essentially 1 phasing, or almost 1 phasing Kalli with this weapon is phenomenal. If you replace this with any normal legendary hand cannon, auto rifle, scout rifle, pulse rifle, whatever, it's not even gonna come close. And so that is an impressive point for the Devil's Ruin. But at the end of the day, obviously, because we are very much struggling with the 1 phase, we did end up getting it. I may have switched to a grenade launcher at the very end, but still, it's not going to be meta or anything, and you're better off using other options. Therefore, I've got to give it a 7 out of 10. It's definitely above average, especially for being a primary, but it's not going to reach the upper echelon because there's so much better things to use. However, it is time to move on from there to Shuro Chi. Now again, this thing had some trouble on Kalli. Is it going to put forth enough damage to get Shuro Chi to that damage cap? Because if you don't do 1/6 of her health in a short amount of time, you just wipe. Well, as you can see, it's actually more than capable. Like, holy crap, this thing actually shreds Shuro Chi, and we're able to get her immune in absolutely no problem with a primary weapon. Like, I would imagine if we're all using just normal fusion rifles, we would get frankly similar, if not worse, results. So this was actually somewhat surprising, and we ended up using this weapon for the entire encounter. Every single damage phase, we are using this weapon. And it really never let us down. The cherry on top is the fact that this thing is pretty darn good against ads. Now, it's not, as good as, let's say, a hand cannon with Firefly against the lower level ads, but it excels against close together ads. If you can do a charge shot, you can get, 3 or 4 ads with one of those down easily, but really against the higher tier ads like a knight or the majors, it just shreds them. Usually it's going to kill or almost kill a yellow bar enemy with one single charge without having to switch to a shotgun or something like that, which you would normally need to do. So that is quite impressive. And so I've got to give this weapon a 9 out of 10. Seriously, we used this the entire time. We never felt in danger. There was never a damage phase that we barely made it. It was doing more than enough. A phenomenal weapon, especially considering it's a primary. However, we do need to move on from there to Morgeth, and this is a one and done damage phase. There is no hiding in doorways like Kalli. There is no 1/6 like Shuro Chi. You do all of it in one go. I mean, technically you can do a second damage phase, but come on, what is this, amateur hour? No, we're going for the one phase. Can we do it with the Devil's Ruin? As normal, there's a bunch of ads in the first part of the encounter, and the Devil's Ruin is great there. It can one burst kill, like the Eyes of Riven, I believe. If not the Eyes of Riven, definitely the non-Eyes of Riven majors. It destroys, so very good against the majors in this part, because there are a lot of eyes that you gotta kill. But against Morgeth himself, as you can see, we were capable of getting that one phase, and that is pretty darn sweet. Now, with that being said, it was a little bit of a messy one phase. This thing is definitely not killing Morgeth as fast as a lot of the other options out there. Even I think other primaries, such as the Outbreak Perfected, would be capable of killing Morgeth a little bit faster, but this did it. Like, it at the end of the day, all of us using this weapon did kill Morgeth. Now, several people actually ran out of ammo who weren't using sidearm reserves, so keep that in mind. It was pretty close, but it was capable to do it, and at the end of the day, that means I'm going to give this thing a 7.5 out of 10 just because it cut it so close with not only killing him in time, but ammo as well. However, it is time to move on from there to the Vault encounter, and this is always a really interesting one because this raid has so many different boss fights, and then the Vault, there's no bosses. It's just a ton of ads, and then you have those quite powerful knights charging at you as well. So sometimes weapons that suffer against bosses excel here and vice versa. So how is the Devil's Ruin? Well, against the normal ads, again, it's pretty darn good. The fact that you can one-hit kill a lot of the red bars in here is phenomenal, and whenever there's a group of enemies, you just do the charge shot and decimate them. So, things are looking good. What about those knights? Well, it turns out this thing actually kind of shreds the knights. You can kill them in 3 to 4 burst shots of Devil's Ruin. And that's just if you're by yourself. If you have a teammate nearby, you absolutely shred. And another feature of this weapon comes up in this part that really didn't matter much in the previous encounters, and that is the staggering effect. This gun is meant for unstoppable champions, and it goes out of its way to stagger enemies with pretty much every shot. So when you hit that charging knight, it will always stop, it will always flinch, and let you get that easier follow-up shot, or let a teammate have time to come and assist you. That is a very big deal in this encounter and about this weapon, the fact that it's always flinching. Now, the slight downside of that is the fact that it can be hard to get an entire burst on the enemy's head because they flinch and throw their head around and kind of turn their body around, but that's kind of a minor thing compared to stopping them in their tracks, letting you get that follow-up shot, etc. So, in this encounter, very impressed. 8 out of 10. Alright, moving on from there, we have the big damage phase against Riven herself. And obviously, we going for the cheese. I mean, we gotta test how much damage this can output in a short period of time. And as you can see, it actually does a pretty decent amount. You're hitting Riven for a considerable amount of damage, and we got her way past a third, honestly pretty close to half health, but we weren't even close to achieving that one phase. As you can see by the damage numbers, a couple of us were pretty darn, well, a lot of us were pretty darn close to that 400,000 damage mark, so just under 500,000, and for a primary, that is definitely nothing to scoff at. Like, that is pretty darn good. However, in the grand scheme of things, obviously, it's not close to getting that one phase. Other things do so much better, and this is the point where the fact that it's a primary is a huge detriment. Like, normally, having the massive increase in available ammo because it's a primary would matter in a lot of encounters. Not this one. You're just blowing all your ammo in one go, and therefore, the Devil's Ruin gets a 5.5 out of 10. Like, I just want to make sure it's above average because it definitely is for a primary, but yeah, don't use this thing, obviously. With that being said, we actually do have one more encounter, the Queen's Walk encounter, the final one of the Last Wish raid. So here, you do actually have a lot of enemies to kill. And this thing is pretty decent. Like, coming out of Riven's mouth initially, as you can see, it kind of shreds some of the yellow bars that are going to be there, which is actually quite good. It's good at killing the enemies as you're going along. And when you get teleported inside, you do have those same knights that you dealt with in the vault, and it was good in the vault, it's also good here. So this is actually a pretty decent little weapon to utilize, and you know, unlike Riven, you are actually quite looking for ammo efficiency here so that you can always engage enemies whether you are doing the walk or you're teleported inside the secondary area. So here I'm gonna have to give this thing a 7.5 out of 10. Actually pretty darn decent to use. However, guys, that concludes every single encounter of the Last Wish raid, and therefore we've got to give it an overall ranking. So this thing, at the end of the day, it actually cranks. Its damage is very comparable to a special weapon, and I keep harping on that, oh, it's a primary, it's good for a primary, but it really is. And the fact that you can have something that gets so much ammo do this much damage is unusually good for Destiny 2, and therefore I've got to give it a 7.5 out of 10. At the end of the day, a very good weapon. It's certainly not going to become the new best thing to use in damage phases, but the fact that you can combine this thing with a legendary grenade launcher like the Swarm or the Love and Death, use that, and when it runs out of ammo, have a primary that packs this much of a punch, that is something that people honestly should look at using in raids like this. And so guys, that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed, found this informative, and if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. And if you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickKackis. That's linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.